It all started with a phone call at 2:13 a.m. Emily, a real estate agent in Portland, Oregon, was half asleep when her phone buzzed. It was a panicked neighbor. "Ma'am," the voice on the line said nervously. "Someone moved into the house next door, but that house has been empty for 40 years. Emily sat bolt upright in bed. She knew the house. Everyone in town did. Locals called it the Silent House, a relic abandoned since the 1980s. It had no electricity, no plumbing, and a rusted gate that nobody could open. It was a time capsule of decay. Yet the caller insisted, his voice trembling. "The lights are on. I can see curtains moving. I swear, someone's inside." The next morning, driven by a mix of professional duty and sheer curiosity, Emily drove over. As she turned onto the street, her jaw dropped. The once rotten, skeletal house now looked brand new. It was a complete, impossible transformation. Fresh white paint gleamed in the morning sun. The windows were spotless, reflecting the clear blue sky. The overgrown, thorny yard was now a perfectly trimmed lawn, complete with a charming little flower bed by the porch. It looked lived in, perfectly, peacefully lived in. But how? No moving trucks had been seen. No construction crews had been hired. Emily had checked. There were no repair permits filed with the city, no records of any work whatsoever. No signs of activity, not even a stray footprint in the damp soil. It was as if the house had simply healed itself overnight. Her heart pounding, Emily got out of her car and walked toward the pristine white picket fence. She pushed the gate open and swung silently without a single creak. She walked up the newly paved path to the front door and knocked. To her utter shock, the door didn't just unlock. It swung open on its own, revealing a warm, inviting interior. Hesitantly, she stepped inside. The air was warm and smelled of cinnamon and baked bread. The house was fully furnished, not with modern furniture, but with classic pieces that felt like they had been there for decades, lovingly cared for. Warm light emanated from elegant lamps. A fire crackled merrily in the fireplace, casting a soft glow on the polished wooden floors. But it was the photos on the walls that made Emily freeze in her tracks. The smiling faces in the gold-rimmed frames were her own family, her parents, looking young and happy, her older brother ruffling her hair, and there she was, a little girl with pigtails, grinning from ear to ear. These were moments she didn't even remember, captured in stunning detail. It was her childhood, but a version of it she had never lived. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Then a gentle voice came from the kitchen. "You're early. Dinner isn't ready yet." Emily turned slowly, her whole body trembling. A woman stood in the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on an apron, a warm, loving smile on her face. A woman who looked exactly like her mother, but her mother had passed away 10 years ago. Emily stumbled back, a wave of terror and confusion washing over her. This couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, a hallucination. The woman stepped forward gently, her expression full of concern. "Don't be afraid, sweetheart," she said, her voice the same comforting tone Emily remembered from her childhood. "This is the life you were supposed to have." Before everything changed, Emily's mind raced. "What do you mean? Changed how?" The woman's smile was sad now. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she pointed toward a closed door at the end of the hall. "Open it and you'll see." With trembling legs, Emily walked toward the door. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to flee this impossible house. But a deeper, unexplainable pull urged her forward. Her hand shook as she reached for the cold, brass doorknob. She took a deep breath, turned the knob, and woke up. She was on the sidewalk, outside the house. The morning sun was gone, replaced by the gray, overcast sky typical of Portland. She blinked, disoriented, and looked at the house. It was abandoned again, rotted, broken, silent. The windows were shattered. The paint was peeling, and the lawn was a tangled mess of weeds and thorns. The transformation was gone, as if it had never happened. It was all a dream. A vivid, terrifyingly realistic dream. Shaking her head to clear it, Emily turned to leave, but then she stopped. The front door, which should have been boarded up and locked, was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness in the decaying facade. And there, just inside the doorway on the dusty, splintered floor, was a photograph, one that hadn't existed a moment before. Her heart hammering against her ribs, she cautiously reached in and picked it up. It was a picture of her, Emily, standing inside that perfect, warm version of the house. And next to her, with an arm wrapped around her shoulders, was the ghostly woman who looked like her mother. They were both smiling. She flipped the photo over. Scrawled on the back in elegant handwriting were the words, "Some homes choose their family, even across time." To this day, the silent house stands on that quiet Portland street. Emily never put it back on the market. Most nights, it remains dark and lifeless. But sometimes, neighbors report seeing a single light flicker on in an upstairs window. And on quiet evenings, if you listen closely, they say you can sometimes hear a woman's voice calling softly into the night. Dinner's ready, sweetheart. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more mysteries.